Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of Southeastern Bow Hunter Podcast. I think this is episode 137. And this episode is going to be with Robin Parks from Hot Shot Archery. So if you don't know what that is, we're going to dive into it. Definitely go check them out on all the socials and see if they've got something that you're interested in. A couple of updates. Once again, the third annual Southeastern Bow Hunter Bow Shoot at Clybell WMA is going to be on July 13th. Had honestly a lot of people reaching out, way more than I expected for this year's bow shoot. So if you're making the drive, it's going to be worth it. We're going to have a bunch of giveaways, and I'm very excited just to see everybody show up, man. It's going to be a great time, and I'm very, very excited to give away stuff from Summit, G5, Osseo. What else? Ace Social Circle is getting involved, Moultrie, BHL, all that stuff, Victory. I'm very thankful for all of that. So I hope to see you guys out there. If y'all have any questions, reach out to me. If you want to know time, if you need the location, all crossbows and stuff are allowed. Crossbows, compounds, traditional, everything's allowed. So we're welcoming everyone, and it's 100% free. So you're basically only spending money on gas, food if you get it, and then you're going to walk away with hopefully, some product from some of the partners. So speaking of partners, before we get into this episode with Robin, we got Working Class Bow Hunter. I'm actually wearing one of their shirts right now. If you want to go and get some merch, head over to workingclassbowhunter.com. Use the code listed below, and we got you the hookup for that. So awesome dudes, awesome podcast, and very thankful to be working with them. Next up is going to be Osseo. So Osseo just dropped their new camo line called Wrapped X. Last week I misspoke. The OG line is called Raptor, which is what I've been using. It's been working great. I'm very excited to get this Wrapped X pattern out in the woods this year. Hopefully I'll be able to get my hands on some of it. If not, maybe next year. But yeah, man, they are they are by far my favorite camo company on the market. Come out with the coolest designs, and it works. The stuff definitely works. So definitely head over to osseogear.com, pick up your new Wrap X camo, and look at everything else they have to offer. There is a code listed below for you to use to save a little bit of money. And also check out Mission Whitetail, which is Joe Miles' podcast. That is extremely informative. He's got great guests all the time. And, I don't even think I told him I was going to help promote that. I just want to push it because here soon we're going to start our Whitetail series. And basically what that is it's going to be a 2-month series. If I can get enough people to come on here, where I talk about everything whitetail. We are going to cover early season. We're going to cover late season, mid-season, rut, feeding, tactics that these guys who kill big bucks consistently use. So all of us can learn and utilize those tactics in the woods in order to get on the big bucks that we are after. Speaking of big bucks, I actually trying to stay grounded this year. Last year, I got really I don't want to say cocky, but I thought I had everything figured out and in the bag, and I surely did not. But God is working this year for sure. Had 3 absolute studs show up at one of my spots today. And then one of my other spots that always holds bucks is really looking promising. So look, man, those Whitetail series episodes are going to be very helpful, not just for myself, but hopefully for all of you as well. So head over to Osseo Gear, check out all the stuff they have, listen to Mission Whitetail to get an idea of what we're going to be kind of covering, and go help support those guys. Next up is going to be Summit Tree Stand. So Summit is actually going to be giving away a brand new Viper SD tree stand to somebody at the bow shoot. I couldn't believe it once they told me that. And dude, I am just so hyped on that. So thankful. Summit has been working with us over here at Southeastern Bow Hunter for years. It's been like 3 years now, which is insane. Summit and Osseo both are the 2 oldest partners that we've got. And I don't ever plan on using anything else. So head over to summitstands.com, check out all the stuff they have. I was just playing with my Summit sticks that you can see in the background over there yesterday. I have a lot to learn when it comes down to hang-ons, but I'll get there. Yeah, man, awesome quality products, awesome people. Definitely use the code listed below to save you some money for this season coming up. Next up is going to be the Bowtique. As you guys know, Mike's got some of the best, he's got the best custom wraps on the market. Best quality, best designs. Head over to boutiquellc.com. Use the code listed to get free shipping. And dude, go help support him because he's got some big things coming lately. Very excited for Mike. Then obviously Bergie Bowsmith, Wizard with the Bows. He's a dealer for all the companies that we use. So head over to bergiebowsmith.com, set up I guess a order or whatever to get your bow tuned by him before season, so you're able to shoot straight and accurate. He bear shafts out to 15 yards. I don't know anybody else that does that. And then obviously he's a dealer for a lot of the brands we use, and you can use the code listed below to save some money. Next up is going to be G5 Outdoors. So I was talking with Brian today. G5 is 100% part of the giveaway. We're giving away some broadheads. I think at least one quiver and a hat. But we're going to see what shows up in the giveaway package that they're sending. I plan on using the G5 Mega Meat and the G5 Dead Meat V2 this year. When it comes to mechanicals, I've tested 2 blades, I've tested 3 blades, and I've had better luck with 3 blades. So that's just what I'm using. But G5's got, let's see, mechanic. I say this every week, but I always kind of forget or pause. G5 runs the Mega Meat, Dead Meat V2, and the T2. Now they also are coming out for you crossbow hunters with a T2 crossbow edition. So if you guys want to try that broadhead out and you shoot a crossbow, whether you have a medical situation going on, or you're a little bit older, or you're a kid, or you just say, you know what, I don't want to shoot a vertical bow, I'm going to shoot a crossbow. No judgment here. They now made a broadhead specifically for you. Can handle high speeds. It's going to be just as good as the T2, and very excited to see people kill stuff with it. It's going to be great. If you're not a mechanical guy, they also have fixed blades. They got the Montec M3. They got the Striker X and Striker V2. Those last 2 are the replaceable blade versions. Then obviously the other 2 are solid construction. One of them's vented, one of them's not. And you can resharpen those no problem. So head over to G5 Outdoors. Go get your broadheads. All right, go get those broadheads. I stand by G5 and everything that they do. They're the only broadhead I've ever used that's 100% success rate. Now, that's not to say and try and jinx myself, but comparing it to other stuff I've used in the past, yeah, that's the whole reason I wanted to work with them. Next up is going to be Prime Archery. The lighting in here is not as good as usual. I didn't turn that light on back there because I kind of rushed down here. But I've got my Prime form set up, ready to go. Shot it yesterday, 40 yards, 12 ring, dead. Just dead shot, man. That bow is so stable. And they actually posted a post recently talking about their center grip that is on all of their bows. 64% more stable than any other bows out there. I don't know about 64%. I'm not a percentage guy, but I can tell you after shooting every single bow that I was available or that I was able to get my hands on, both flagships and budgets, the Prime form and any Prime that I have shot, the most stable bow, just hands down the most stable bow. So if you're in the market for a new bow, you're running a little bit late. We only got 2 months left till season. I would go shoot one and go get one if you can. So definitely help support Prime. I don't ever plan on switching, to be honest with you. Next up is going to be Dialed Archery. Got my dialed proof, completely, no pun intended, but dialed. I am running a custom scope on there, but you know, Dialed makes an amazing product. Very thankful to work with those guys, and they are constantly coming out with new small batches. I am running the proof in, I think it's like scree, which is like a silvery gray color. And then I had my scope actually was a little bit different color. I forgot what it was, but decided to, or was blessed to be able to get a custom Southeastern Bowhunter scope made. So I am running that, but everything that Dialed makes is fantastic. I would definitely push for you guys to shoot that sight. It's well worth the money. It is super easy to sight in, and it's everything a step above what my old sight was, my old Dialed. And even then, that old Dialed Arxos was top notch. So head over to dialedarchery.com, look at everything they've got, and pick your sight today. You can customize it. It's awesome. Shout out to Ace Hardware and Social Circle. They actually just restrung my wife's bow. Trying to get her into hunting. She got some strings from Unbound Archery. Shout out to Nick. And she got purple, or no, I'm sorry, not purple. What was it? Pink and blue, like Tiffany blue. She's really big on those colors. It's actually going to look kind of sick. And, you know, if God forbid I do something stupid and mess up my Prime and then my bear gets messed up, I have that backup bow if I need it. So head over to Ace Hardware and help support them. They just had their bow shoot about a week ago, and heard it was a great success. So shout out to those guys. I'm glad it's working out for them, and very thankful they are able to work on my stuff. And also they provide all of the same brands that we all use. So head over there, tell them I sent you, and help support those guys. Next up is going to be Moultrie. So Moultrie actually just dropped some new feeders and feeder kits. From what I understand, those new feeders are able to connect directly with your cell cam, And they also have any protein feeder that holds up to 200 pounds. You can time that feeder and your camera to work at the exact same time. So basically, if you're one of those people that's like how I had last year, where you basically controlled the deer movement with your food, that is a perfect thing for you. I don't really have anywhere that I can use a feeder. I do have one spot, but I don't get the chance to go out there much. And I've noticed that any big changes that I make over there really freak the deer out. But if you've got a spot where you run a feeder, head over to Moultrie, check out the new feeders they got, check out the cameras that they have. My cameras are working flawlessly. Absolutely love the Edge Pro and the Edge Pro 2, running those on solar panels, and I haven't had to change anything out. I mean, I'm telling you, Moultrie makes a top-notch product. Next up is going to be Bow Hunting League. I have signed up with Thor and Josh. We are running the Southeastern Bow Hunter team. They have the new meat wagon that's coming out. And dude, I'm just so thankful the Bow Hunting League is wanting to work with us. We've got a banner coming. I'm a state sponsor with them now. And my buddy Kyle is going to be coming on in a couple of weeks to talk about the Bow Hunting League. It may even be next week. I haven't looked at the schedule, but yeah, Bow Hunting League is doing big things for the community. Me and Adam talked about it last week. So if you're not a part of it, go get involved. And you're going to meet a lot of great people in there. It's just a great group of guys. Next up is going to be Boning Archery. You know, I've told you guys before, I'm running the alpha vanes. I've shown you the vanes before. That is the only vane I've been able to run a heavy helical on and not have parachuting or slowing down of the arrow. It's the design that they have that basically the middle of the vane is higher than the back, so it disrupts. I'm not going to say it disrupts the air. It basically cuts the air in a way that you don't get as much drag. If you're one of those guys that likes a little bit, I guess, not flimsy, a less stiff vane, they also have the Atlas, which is the exact same design. It's just a different material. Both those vanes are fantastic. And if you want to run the OG, they have the Blazer. They have a bunch of other vanes too. You can really see what your arrows can look like if you check out the Bowtique, because me and Mike both are partnered up with Boning, and he uses nothing but Bonings, and his builds are amazing. So you can see all the possibilities with that. So head over to Boning Archery if you want to build your own arrows and get your own vanes. Use the code down below to save 20%. And thank you again to Boning. Next up is going to be Victory Archery. So I'm running the RIP TKOs, plan on getting the HLR soon, and then I'm probably going to get my wife some V-Force Gamers, just because I don't know if she's actually going to get into archery and hunting and all that stuff. We're giving it a shot. But Victory is the only arrow that I choose to use. That's not saying that there's not other good ones on the market, but Victory is the one that I have used. Never broken. They're extremely consistent. The straightness is great. It's just an all-around great arrow. So head over to Victory Archery. Go to your local shop. Get you some RIP TKOs, some HLRs, some RIP SS, any of that. They have plenty of stuff to choose from. And look, in my opinion, Victory is the best arrow company that's out there. I know people have told me not to say stuff like that, but it's true. I'm going to stand by that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. That's what I choose to use. You don't have to, but if you do, you'll never go back. I can almost guarantee that. Next up is going to be the Chase. So that is my buddy Brock's YouTube channel. I've been pushing him now for a couple of months. His stuff is really growing. If you've seen him on TikTok, make sure to give him a follow and follow his stuff. Go on YouTube, and also make sure you subscribe. He's got a lot of stuff he's going to be working on. We were just talking plans for videos and stuff earlier today. So very excited to be seeing stuff come from him. And last but not least, definitely not least, we have a new partner. So I just recently, a couple of days ago, decided to talk to my buddy James, who runs the Scrape Doctor. And if you don't remember his episode, he came on and he basically redefined scrapes for me completely. And I use this product and it is working amazingly. We've had crazy rain out here in Georgia. We've had crazy storms, and deer are still hitting the scrapes. So you know what? I told James, I was like, look, man, I will start promoting your stuff, you know, and pushing you on the podcast, and we will, you know, if you're willing, we can work together and see where this goes. I know he's getting involved in some auto racing stuff with ARCA and NASCAR, and you know, that's awesome because that hits home to me. So I told him, I was like, brother, if you want to work together, I'm down. And he was all for it. So welcome, Scrape Doctor, to the Southeastern Bow Hunter family. You can use the code listed below to save 10%. You can get the rope kit with the scents. I know he's got a bunch of other stuff. I really should have done my research, but it's been a very kind of disconnected day in a way. Not in a bad way, but yeah, that's the shout out to all the partners. Very thankful for everybody that wants to work with us. And before we get into this episode with Robin, I got to talk to you guys about Jesus. You know that I always do this. I have been seeing God work in miraculous ways lately. I'll give you a quick little story. So we had our AC go out again. The condenser capacitor or something like that went out, and it was blazing hot. And those that live around me or live in the South, we're under a heat wave right now. Of course, the day I'm recording this is going to be storms, which whatever, but it's been hot, and so we were suffering, man. And like, called my buddy that runs the AC company, and I said, hey, our system's working, but it's not blowing any cold air. He comes out, or the plan was to have him come out on Tuesday, right? And I got home early enough on Monday, and I said, hey, I don't know if your schedule is open or not, but if it is, I'm going to be home at this time. If you're able to come by, I'd really appreciate it. If not, no problem. I can still be home the next day. He texts me and he goes, I'm on my way. You're going to be home all day. And I'm like, yep, I will be here all day. Dude shows up, right? So that already is one miracle that happened, because I didn't think that was going to happen with how busy he's been. And then he shows up, figures out within 2 minutes what it is, and they had the very last condenser capacitor on their truck, and we're able to fix it. Now we're back up and running. And I have to give that to God, because it was one of those things that every single thing aligned, right? Every single thing lined up. I didn't think any of that was going to happen. And just, small little things too. Like, we got the stuff going on over in the Middle East. For those of you that know Revelation and scripture and all that stuff, that's kind of something that I'm not going to say it's close to home, but that's something to keep an eye on. Seems like everything's sort of cooling off over there. But look, I just want to say that Jesus is working. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Okay. And I have been living, especially the past couple of weeks, with this verse in my head, that if you ask anything in his name and you believe you have received it, it will be given to you. A lot of the times, we will just pray and we'll be like, oh, Jesus, please do this. And we just don't really think about it, right? We expect him to do everything. That's not always the case. Sometimes, but that's not always the case. And, I have seen my friends come to their faith and come to Christ. And I'm not saying that it's anything to do with me, because I'm just this low life sinner that lives on this planet. But thanks to what Jesus did, I can know what righteousness is, and know that when my life is over, I am going to be with the Father. And I know that. That is not a boastful thing. That is not me trying to brag. It's because I understand what the faith is, and I have seen things, I've experienced things that it's just extremely obvious, and it's my job to share it with you guys. So if I know this is going to be long-winded, and I'm sorry, it's funny. Brock was telling me he skips through the intro a lot. I'm sure a lot of you guys do too. But if you listen to this part, this is the most important part of this entire episode. If you listen to this part and you don't know who Jesus is, I implore you to give him a shot. My life has changed even more drastically than it did the first time I gave my life to him. Or really at the beginning of when I gave my life to him, because it was one of those things, man. Some of us just go through and they're like, yeah, I believe in Jesus and he's my Lord and Savior. And then you just go off living your life. And that's not how it's supposed to be, right? When you fully surrender and you fully give your life to Christ, you feel a difference, right? You feel a peace. You know that no matter what you face, you're going to get out of that. And there's going to be better things on the other side. I have a friend that is living through this exact situation right now. He's going through some crazy stuff. And he just texted me yesterday telling me all these amazing things that are happening. And I'm like, I told you, if you just surrender everything to the Lord, you're going to see amazing things. I know I'm getting really preachy here. I'm sorry, but I just, I feel like, I guess the best way to put it is God's using me to speak to you guys. He loves us. He loves every single one of us, no matter what we've done. He meets you where you are. You don't have to go to him. A lot of people are like, oh, I've done so much. That doesn't matter. If you guys knew the things that I've done, you would be like, whoa, what was this kid doing? Right? You would see the major change. And I owe it all to Christ. I do. I still fall. I'm still a sinner, but it's the constant battle. We don't battle against flesh and blood, but we battle against the spirit, right? Spirits of the world. That's part of scripture. I'm sure I butchered that, but we're always going to fall short of the glory of God, but because of what Jesus did, we can all call him Father, and we can all spend eternity with him if you just give your life to him. And it's not that hard. It's not like you have to do all these crazy things. You just have faith. We're saved by grace through faith. That is my favorite verse in the entire Bible. All right, so that's my preacher moment. If you don't know Jesus, please give him a shot. So preaching's over, partners are over, updates are over. Let's get into it with Robin Parks from Hot Shot Archery. I probably should have hit record sooner because me and Robin just had a great conversation about time management and how bad I was when I first started doing this. But we've got Mr. Robin Parks from Hot Shot Archery on today. So Robin, I told you in, I guess, prologue to this that no one's ever going to hear, but I sometimes will go into episodes with companies or a product or whatever that I know really almost nothing about. So it's genuine because I really want it to be the first time I hear it. It'll be the first time these guys hear it. So we talked a little bit about, the history of Hot Shot, but I want to hear the history of you first. How did you get into hunting, and how did that go from, I guess, let's just say just hunting to now Hot Shot?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. And so I do agree. You probably should have been recording for the last 3 or 4 minutes. That's pretty good, but that's all right. Yeah, so I've been involved in the hunting industry in some form or fashion since around 1992. So I'm getting pretty old. And hunting since I was a teenager. I live in Missouri. When I first started trying to learn how to deer hunt, it was really hard to even see a deer. So that's how long that I've been hunting. Of course, times have changed significantly.
Mm-hmm.
I actually got into the hunting industry. It wasn't through hunting initially. It was through bow fishing. Bow fishing was my life for a lot of years. We had a TV show, made lots of DVDs when DVDs were a thing. This is pre-YouTube, obviously. And I had a lot of paid sponsors, traveled the country, and had a great time doing it. I mean, I was consumed with it.
Yeah.
We have a world record alligator gar and several state records. And
okay, how big?
So the unofficial weight, the first weight that we got, and that's a long story in itself, but it was 299 pounds. It was 8 foot, 2.5 long.
Oh my
and
God.
4 foot circumference. So
a freaking shark, man.
Get a 4 foot rope and make that into a circle, and you'll see how big around that fish was. So yeah.
God, that's insane.
So yeah, so that's kind of how I got started in the industry, and that actually had a direct link to Hot Shot, indirect, I'll say, because as time went on, I got contacted by the founder of Cajun Archery, which was a bow fishing company, and said, I really want you to contact this guy named Dave White. He bought Cajun from me, and I know who you are and what you're doing, and I want you to help Dave turn my old company name into something. So he got me in touch with Dave White, and we did become partners. And to try to make a long story short, really, we did a lot together to make that company grow tremendously. And Bear Archery ended up buying the company from Dave. In the meantime, before Cajun got bought, Dave bought Hot Shot, and Hot Shot had been around since 1975, and is actually one of the, if not the first, handheld thumb trigger releases ever made.
Wow.
So he bought that company and said, well, can you help me with Hot Shot, this hunting company, in the way you've helped me with the bow fishing company? And I said, well, I could try. Hunting isn't what my focus is, although, I, of course, just like all of us, I bow hunted, when the time was there. But eventually, like I said, Cajun got bought out. And so then Dave was like, hey, I'm not paying you to bow fish anymore. What do you think about becoming a little more focused? And I was starting to get older, and bow fishing was harder, staying up all night, all those things. And so my hunting kind of came first. I went stopped bow fishing in the spring and focused on killing turkeys with my bow and things like that. And so that was my start. So I've known Dave and have worked for him and been friends with him for over about over 20 years now. So that's the length of time that we're talking about from the first contact until now. And so that's how really I got started. I do work for Hot Shot. It's not my real life job. I'm an engineer in real life. I've worked for the federal government for 30 something years. Yeah, I'm about ready to be done with that. And probably
All right.
would work for Hot Shot full time. I mean, I'm close, I'm kind of like a half-time kind of a person with them. And it's really me and the owner and a few other employees. We're a small company, and so yeah, that's kind of the history and background of that.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, so like I said earlier before we started recording, my buddy Ben from Sodak Horizon mentioned you guys. And I checked y'all stuff out, man. And it, very briefly, like, because I knew we were going to do an episode, right? So I just wanted to sort of get an idea. And it seems like y'all stuff, to me, from what I can tell, is very different, right? Like I see differences in y'all's releases compared to other ones, but it seems like they're good differences, So I do kind of want to sort of spotlight on the releases that you guys have, because I'm a big index guy. And I do later on, like we talked about before, I do want to kind of cover, people switching over from index to thumb, because I almost did that fully. But before we do that, can you kind of let everybody know like what, Hot Shot has to offer as far as index, thumb buttons, hinges, if y'all have hinges?
So I think right off the bat, you've said that you've noticed ours isn't really like everyone else's, and there are similarities, of course, but I think a big part of that is because we've been around longer than anybody else. And so we haven't tried to copy other people or do what they're doing. We've kind of stuck with what we've always done. And so if you just kind of go back through time, you could see some similarities, for instance, in the old antique handhelds that, people could find, the old Hot Shots, they're red and they're real flat, and they have a rope instead of a hook. So a rope was wrapped around the string and triggered.
Really?
Yeah. But you could kind of see the similarities in that one as compared to, say, our current handheld, which is probably like our longest running modern handheld, and it's called the Tempest. But what we've always tried to do is be high quality, not high volume. We don't have ambitions to be the biggest release company. That's not what our goal is. We really are trying to be the best quality release we possibly can be. And that actually goes into even our index fingers, because our index fingers, I think, is where you really see a significant difference from the others. A lot of companies, and there's nothing wrong with this, but they're building releases to try to be super affordable and available to everyone. And it's kind of a cater to the masses thing where, and so our index fingers we have one called the Nano, and it's a completely different mechanism really than anyone else uses. And we do that because that Nano release ends up being a super high quality release. And what I mean in this case, when I say release, I mean letting go of the bowstring.
Yeah.
And to some people that doesn't mean anything, but I think as we all develop as archers, we all start to figure out what, is there a better feeling bow? Is there a better sight? And same thing goes for releases. And we also have an open hook kind of a style index finger, and we call it the Raptor. And I really hesitate to ever say we're the best at anything, but I do truly think that particular index finger is among the best actions available in an index finger. It's just a fantastic, crisp release and super, super hard to beat. So that's, that kind of covers the index fingers. And then we do have quite a few models of thumb buttons. They're all pretty much the same mechanism, different handle styles. Everyone hand is different, feels different. except we do have our brand new ignition, and we spent a year developing that, and it's unlike any of our other releases. Really, it's a totally different mechanism, different handle format, and it's been super popular for us. Like, it's really taken off. It's a great release. We're super proud of that one. And it's taken off to the extent that we're really going to be forced to start like cutting down the number of models that we carry, because the other ones are being left behind. People want the newest and best. And some of that's looks, of course. I mean, it's olive green, it's matte, and it's got a nice kind of a slightly rough but yet soft texture to it. All those things are important to people these days. So
Yeah, I mean I'll be honest, man, I'm still using like the older style. I think my trigger release that I have, which I actually did try to change about a year ago. Because I've got the index. I was using like this really old true ball that my brother-in-law gave me when I got into bow hunting. So I've been using this release now for 5 years. And it's the dual jaw, I guess, dual caliper type.
yeah.
And I never really realized that those specific style releases mess around with the D loop. Like I had a bow that I just was shooting it nonstop, getting used to it. And look at the D loop and it's starting to fray a bit. And I'm like, why is that? So going up to my local shop, my buddies work there, and I kind of am like, hey, I need a new D loop, but why is this happening? And they sort of explained, those jaws over time will rub against the D loop and cause it to either break or fray or whatever. So I've been looking into like different styles, like single jaw, the hook style, and I guess this is probably a good time to sort of, I guess, discuss the differences in use of like an index to a thumb button, because you mentioned something earlier about people switching from index to thumb button. It seems to be like a thing that's going on right now. And
it is, yeah. But before we go there,
yeah,
I'm just gonna say that like we hear your story all the time, like in shows, emails, and it always goes like that. I've had this one release that I either bought 10 years ago or someone gave me, and I've never changed. It works fine. And when we're at a show, it's easy because we can hand them one of our index finger releases and say, yeah, we'll try this.
mm-hmm.
And they're like, holy crap. It's like, you don't know until you know. You don't know what you're missing until you try one, and compare it to a bow. Someone's 15-year-old bow can certainly be killing deer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it could be, you could shoot it lights out, but there's just something about a more modern and new bow in today's world and how that's going to feel compared to the other one. Like it's shockingly different, and the same for releases. And so I would say to you and anyone else who has an old release, regardless of dual caliper or single jaw, I would really recommend that, even if it's not a hot shot, that you just try someone's new offerings. And I think you'll be like, whoa, what have I been missing?
So what is like, let's say comparing, and this, I don't know if it's going to be easy to answer or not, but comparing like an older dual jaw like I've got to one of y'all's indexes, what is it that sets it apart?
First of all, in my opinion, a dual jaw release is never going to be as consistent as a single jaw. And the reason is it's just impossible for two jaws to open the exact same way every single time. Now, if your goal is to just kill a deer, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not good for that. And also, I'm just an average shooter. Like, I'm not a great shooter, and even to that extent, do I shoot good enough to notice that at 20 yards? Probably not. Can I notice it at 50? Yeah, probably. And so keep that in mind. And then the other thing just has to do with the mechanisms. It's like a cheap gun, a handgun that you buy, that you don't care if you jack it up, you don't care if it gets rusty. Like, that trigger is never gonna be the same as a high dollar match grade type trigger, right?
Yep,
On a
I have
gun, whether
experienced
it's a
that.
handgun or a rifle.
Yeah.
So it really is all about the processes. And we do things to our internals in terms of heat treating and coating that other companies are doing. Um, and all those things are geared towards more repeatability, durability, and smoothness and crispness. So that doesn't mean that goes across the board for all of our releases, frankly. But so that's kind of building on that. But yeah, if you want to talk about a few tips that I would tell you or anyone else that just wants to try a handheld or a thumb button, the first thing I explain to people is make sure that your loop is 3/4 of an inch or even longer. You don't want to go in there with a super stubby loop that a lot of people like for an index finger. And the reason is because when you come to full draw with your index finger, you're coming straight back and you're not twisting the loop. With a handheld, you come back and you turn your hand into your face, so your loop is getting twisted. So if it's not long enough, you're going to put some torque into your string or maybe on your knock. And so sometimes that will throw people off right away and they're just like, no, it's this release. But really, that's just such a simple thing, but super important. So that's number one. And then the other thing I always recommend to people is throw a kisser button or a nose button on your bow if you don't use one, and set it up using your index finger so that you have another reference besides where your hand touches your face for your anchor point. Then go to the handheld, but make sure that you're bringing the nose button or kisser button to the right place, because all this is going to feel different. Your anchor point is going to have to change, and that throws people off. You got to learn to figure out where that new anchor is going to be, but you want your string to face relationship to stay the same. So you'll see people say, well, a handheld's going to change your draw length. Well, it's not, because your draw length, your bow string only comes back the same distance every single time you draw. It doesn't matter what you got here in your hand to draw it, right? What changes is your anchor. It could come back further or shorter depending on what release you're talking about. But if you could get that out of your way, like you don't have to think about your anchor point because you got a kisser button, then you can just focus on shooting. And so that helps people get past so many things changing at once. So if you do that, you can kind of get used to what this feels like to shoot the bow by doing this. Once you're used to that, then you can start playing around with, okay, now where do I really want to anchor? Does it change, where my string's going to hit my nose? It might or it might not. It doesn't for me. I could shoot all of mine, all of our releases at any given time, because I'm so used to just letting my hand change and I don't think about it, so I can shoot them all without changing my point of impact. But if you change anything, your point of impact could change. Doesn't mean you're not going to still be accurate. It just might not, one person might have an index finger point of impact dead center and they go to handheld. And typically for most right-handed shooters is going to be over to the left. That's just the typical change. So you still might be grouping great, but left to where your index finger groups are. But it doesn't mean your bow's not shooting lasers, perfectly tuned arrows. It's just you've changed something. So if you just kind of take those things first, so you don't overload your brain when you're trying to make this change, it will make the switch tremendously easier. And I will tell you, sorry, I just got to throw one last thing in here.
No, you're good.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times at shows that we do, like when we're actually face to face with people, I can't tell you how many times, even if they're not even wanting to buy one of our releases, they come up and say, yeah, I switched to a thumb button 3 years ago. I'm never going back, or 1 year ago, or 5 years ago. I would say there's about 0.5% of people that we talk to say, I tried it and I just couldn't deal with it. It is really overwhelmingly in favor of the thumb button.
Yeah, so I've had some experience with this. Shooting an index for, let's see, going on 5 years now. And then one of my buddies was the same way. Actually, the guy that got me into hunting, that got me into archery and bow hunting, all of that. The whole reason I'm even sitting here right now, really. He shot an index for years. I mean, over a decade, right? And he was one. It was funny when you were talking about the bows, I was laughing because it's like I know exactly what you're talking about. That he had a bow that was over 10 years old, still shot great, new strings, everything was fine. Awesome bow. But he then was like, seeing the Matthews lift and the form and these Hoyts and all these new bows that are coming out, and he was like, I kind of think I want to get a new bow. So last summer, we're hanging out up at the shop, and I'm like, dude, go shoot the lift, go shoot the new Darton, like shoot some of these bows and figure it out. You're gonna see a big difference. And he now has a lift and a Darton, and he still has the old bow too. But his first thing is, dude, I didn't know what I was missing, right? So I had to touch on that in that whole, I guess, not transition, but that whole upgrade of his equipment. He ended up getting a thumb button. I don't remember what brand. I think it might be a Spot Hog, but he was shooting it and he was calling me up. He's like, dude, this thumb button is just so much better. He's like, I'm so much more accurate. It feels better. And I'm like, well, I've never shot one because I'll be honest, they kind of freak me out because I'm so used to holding on, to like the barrel of the release that I don't want to have my thumb under here, draw back and send it off in the next county. But I was at his house one night, just hanging out, and it was like this past January or something. And so it's super cold, and he and I are just, talking about hunting, and the wives are talking about whatever they're talking about. And I look at him, I was like, hey, you still got that thumb button? He's like, yeah. I was like, you still got that old PSE? Like, yeah. I'm like, let's go see if I can do it. Cause it's always been a goal. I never was able to get his bow back for whatever reason. Not shoot 70 pounds, but I guess the way that those cams were designed back then, I don't know. But we go outside and he gets this thumb button and I clip on, and I'm used to the way I draw is I kind of lean forward and then bring it back. So I'm using like the motion, to sort of get it, and then I'm anchored in and I'm good to go. Like kind of like how Cam Haynes shoots, right? That's kind of where I learned it from. And so I try to do that with a thumb button. Couldn't do it. And so I'm like, I couldn't even get it started. And I'm like, there's no way this is right. Like at my point now in archery, there's no way this is right. So I had to change it up, and I had to change how I drew, and I had to do like the up and then bring it down method. And I finally was able to get the bow back. So that was accomplishment number one, right? And then I actually set, and I felt the difference. Cause again, I'm used to like having my fingers out here. I've got the trigger there. I was not used to the thumb being down here. And I just sort of found my spot and let it go. And I looked at him, I'm like, I see what you're talking about. I was like, it felt more accurate. It felt more in line. And the conclusion that I've kind of come to, and I want your opinion on this, is I feel like thumb buttons for just archery in itself make you way more accurate. But when you're hunting, I, for whatever reason, feel like the index is still maybe better for hunting because you do have like the constant connection. You've got, and maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just in my head. And if I'm wrong, tell me. But
well, you're not
what are your
wrong,
thoughts on that?
Ultimately, it's personal preference, right?
Sure.
So there is no right or wrong. But I'll tell you why I switched to a handheld. I remember I've already said I'm old, right? So I had to switch from hunting with fingers to finally giving into just a release period, which was actually a middle finger release, not an index finger.
Middle finger release?
Yeah.
What is that?
It was an old Copper John Eagle release. So maybe some of your listeners that will trigger a memory. But of course, I did eventually switch and was shooting index fingers. So it does, like I could shoot any of our releases. It doesn't matter, but I do shoot handhelds, and I'm a hunter strictly. If I'm shooting at targets, it's because I'm getting ready for hunting and nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, now I have the freedom of not having that release strapped to my wrist and clanging on stuff whenever I'm climbing a tree and in my way when I'm grabbing my video camera, because I video, self video at times, most of the time. So it's out of my way all the time, and my release is always hanging on the D loop. So when I pick my bow up, it's already on the loop. I don't have to look down. I don't have to clip it on, grab the bow at the release at the same time, and I'm ready.
Yeah.
And so for me, accuracy benefits aside, that is what actually sways me to continue to stick with the handheld. Is those factors.
Yeah.
You know, of course, it's natural to think about, well, what if I drop it out of the tree or whatever, and somehow I've never dropped one out of a tree. It's gonna happen. I've dropped my whole bow out of a tree, but not by release. So, I've gotten lucky there, but you know, I think the answer to that concern is if you really feel like you might drop it, then have a backup in your pack. Um, but on the other hand, there's a reason that when you look at the line, you know, in Vegas or any big pro style 3D shoot, that the vast majority are shooting handhelds, and it's not because they're getting paid to shoot handhelds, they're getting paid to win, and they're gonna have a release that they feel like is to their advantage. And I just think it's undeniable the repeatability of a handheld versus an index finger. It's a more repeatable draw cycle, a more repeatable anchor point, all of those things, and they're more pure archery form. In other words, you know, a lot of people slap an index finger, they slap it with their finger and punch the trigger. You could tuck a thumb barrel, you know, deep right here in your thumb, and you can't hardly slap it. It has more to do with squeezing or pulling through. So all those things are generally what make them just a better choice. But you're right. If your goal is to kill a deer at 30 yards or less, you know, whichever one you choose is going to work. There are people killing deer or shooting 3Ds and you know, making 80-yard shots with index fingers just fine. It's not that they can't. I just think, generally speaking, that anyone that makes the switch and gets used to it will find their longer range shooting improves. That's where it really is going to show up the most.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, like I said, it definitely felt like it was more accurate and more of a, I don't say a natural motion, but like just kind of having it back and knowing, you know, that it's just there. You're just squeezing. Because I dealt with trigger punch for a while and I didn't even know it. Like I was at the shop and was just kind of tuning the bow, and I'm over here just, you know, draw back, draw back. And then they pointed it out and I'm like, you know what, you're right. So it took me, I was actually just telling a buddy of mine about this the other day. It took me maybe 3 months of just drawing back, sort of letting, because I tried that whole behind the neck thing too, and it just didn't really. I know it can work. It didn't work for me, but I would just sort of let my fingers go, and then wouldn't even have my finger on the trigger. And as soon as I'm ready, I'll just sort of set it there, and then as soon as I kind of have that surprise shot, you know, I would just keep it around where I'm aiming at, and then just sort of pull through. And I feel like with the thumb, it's kind of the same feeling in a sense, right? You know, when I shot it, it was just kind of
the same. You're right. It's the same, except it's harder to, with a thumb button in your hand, it's harder to do the wrong thing or easier to do to revert to the wrong thing with an index finger.
Yeah.
Now there's some famously great shooters that consciously do punch the trigger and do great. It's only, you know, it's a, when I say wrong, I just mean what's generally accepted to be the right archery form. Doesn't mean, you know, really archery is just about doing the same exact thing every single time. And if you can really slap that trigger with your finger exactly the same way every time, then go for it, you know, but most people can't. So
I know I can. I know I definitely can. Cool. So is there anything that like is coming from Hot Shot? Maybe, and I don't want to talk like, you know, future designs and stuff, obviously, but just sort of maybe an upgrade you guys possibly see with like indexes, or are you pretty much happy where you're at with that?
We are, because the demand is there for the dual jaw lower price release. We're trying really hard to make a good one of those. We're doing that now. We don't have a date in mind and when that's going to come out, because we're not going to launch it if it's not really good. So that is kind of in the works. Our ignition, we launched it on January 6th of this year, so it's only been out, you know, half of a year basically. And, we are going to come out with a large version handle of that, probably around the first of the year. We're really focused on getting the ignition in more people's hands, and
literally.
yeah, literally. You're right, literally, and
Sorry,
that's our
bad joke.
focus right now. I mean, it has taken off. Our sales kind of exceeded our expectations, and we hit kind of a rough patch where our suppliers were not keeping up, materials and things and so we were back ordered at times when we never expected to be back ordered, but we're on track now, and we're actually trying to move our machining completely 100% in-house right now to avoid those delays. So that's a big deal for us, but that's just getting started. I will say that with the ignition, we got a promotion going on right now until July 15th. And this goes all the way back to when we launched it. Anyone that has bought one or does buy one before then will be entered into a safari giveaway that we're doing. We have some pretty good friends that I have, African Barefoot Safaris in South Africa, and they kind of offered to do a promo related to the launch of the release with us. So we took them up on that. And yeah, just generally speaking, if you buy a release, you're entered, and all the details are on our website. We'll give our website later. But yeah, anyone that is maybe seen our ignition and thinking about it, maybe that's the last thing that'll push you over the edge and get you a free hunt over there for a few animals. And Africa.
So that's a beautiful segue.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful. I saw what you were doing. I heard you mention it.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, we're getting into it. So you are going to be going to Africa soon.
Yeah, about 3.5 weeks.
That's awesome. What part?
South Africa,
Okay.
and actually the northern part of South Africa. So it's the second time that I've been. We went 3 years ago. Expected it to be, my bucket list one time. Go do it, have the experience. And I mean, we haven't even left yet. My now wife, I proposed to her there, by the way, in Africa.
Nice.
She was the first one to say we're gonna have to come back. And she's not a hunter, she sat with me and videoed for me and just loved every minute of the whole experience. Africa is just an amazing place. If you or any of your listeners have ever even thought you might want to do it, I can't recommend to just find a way to make it happen. It's not tremendously expensive, cheaper than what most people envision. And I mean, it can be expensive, but it doesn't have to be. Just an amazing experience.
See, it's funny, man. I've got I have two major hunts in my head that are on my bucket list. Out west mule deer, which is probably going to happen in the next couple of years, and then a caribou hunt, right? And I've never really given Africa too much thought because I'm big on antlers. If something's got antlers, I want to hunt it, right? But I feel like God is kind of telling me hey, maybe you should consider Africa, because I hear Africa from you. I hear it from Kurt from Working Class. Joe goes over there from Osseo. And I keep hearing about it. And I'm like, well, what's the experience? And they tell me the experience. And I'm like, that actually sounds like a lot of fun. And I see African animals in, Longhorns or wherever I'm at, and they've got them on the wall. And I just look at it that would be kind of sick to go over there and be able to hunt them. The real question is, are you going to be hunting water buffalo or Cape buffalo, whatever's over there?
No, I'm not going to do that. I would like to get a Cape buffalo. If I decided to do that, that would probably, it would be a trip where that's where I was going to just for that one animal, totally dedicated to that. I just like to kill stuff and lots of stuff.
Don't we all?
So, I mean, my first trip, I killed 12 animals, 9 different species. So
do you get to keep the meat?
No, you can't. You can't get it through customs. We ate a lot of it while we were there, and it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. What are you after over there? I know there's a ton of different animals.
Yeah, there is a ton. Plains game is what we'll be hunting, so nothing dangerous. The last trip I killed a kudu and a nyala, a water buck, couple warthogs.
Okay, African
Spring
bacon,
bug,
I like it.
just the things that you hear about,
Yeah.
And this time there's a few animals that like a zebra. I really wanted to kill a zebra. Didn't get a chance at one, but that's like at the top of my list. I'm not gonna end up shooting 12 this time. I'm hoping to kill 4 or 5 animals and do that. But here's the thing, like you mentioned, maybe you haven't been interested, but maybe you might be, right? Well,
Yeah.
when I went over there, I had 3 or 4 animals that I knew that I was interested in. The reason that my list turned into 9 different species, because even you just see so much wildlife. Like, it's incredible the number of different species you see. And so, like, driving around doing, taking pictures, we'd see animals, or while we were hunting different animals, and be like, a sable is a great example. I had no desire to shoot a sable, even though I saw pictures and video of them. I just didn't have an interest. And then I saw one in person up close, and I was like, even my wife was like, "You're gonna have to kill one of those." And I think you're right. Like, that perspective of seeing one 20 yards away in person really changed my perspective on a lot of different animals. Like, that I think that's part of what makes it so amazing is everything's different. The culture is different, the people are different, but the wildlife, like every single thing you see, whether it's a bug, a bird, 4-legged animals, they're all just different.
Yeah.
And cool. And
I mean, are you guys seeing like monkeys and stuff out there, like lions?
Monkeys are everywhere. We saw like mongooses. We had a time where we kind of hearing this like chirping noise, and we're like, what is that? And like sounded like the wind picked up, but there was no wind, and we couldn't figure it out. My wife was with me, and we looked out, and it was just like this wave coming across the ground, and it was like 100 mongooses all at once.
Dude, I'd have to sneak one of them suckers back through customs. Me and my wife watched like what's that mongoose show? It was on Animal Planet. I don't remember the name, but Mongoose Army or something like that. And I'm telling you right now, I'll see that stuff on TikTok even, and I'm just like, I gotta have one. I just want a little African ferret running around here.
Yeah.
Because I'd probably go to jail, but might be worth it.
Well,
but,
I mean, we didn't even know to expect them. Like, we didn't know what they were. We were like, are they going to come in here and blind with us, or like, what's going to happen here? Like it was.
Just get attacked by a whole group of monkeys.
It's always something. I mean, the first sit in a blind we had, within 5 minutes of being dropped off, I'm looking out the window and I see the shadow moving across the ground as if a tree is being moved. And my wife goes, "Did you see that? What's going on?" And so she sticks her head out the window, and I see her eyes get as big as saucers. And it was some giraffes coming in, and they walked past us, came from like our blind side, and were 10 yards from the blind when we first saw them. So they were so tall that we couldn't even see their heads without actually getting in the window and looking up at the sky. So that just set the pace, that just set the whole trip. Like everything was always a new adventure.
God, that's so cool. So like when you're down there, are there, because a lot of these, and this isn't, I hope this doesn't come out bad, but like a lot of these are probably high fence properties, right? Like they kind of have to be.
Yeah,
poachers and stuff like that.
Keep the poachers out.
It
has less to do with keeping animals in, because a lot of the animals, they don't have to be in there if they don't want to be. They can either jump over, go under, or go through, and that's no exaggeration. One of those 3 things is an option for almost everything. But it really is keep the poachers out.
So when you're down there, are you seeing, like, is there a risk of, say you go in the morning, right? Or you're there in the evening. Is there a risk of like running across like one of the big cats or hyenas or something that's out there? I mean,
So where we were and where we will be, there are some cheetahs and there are some leopards. The only lions that are there are the ones that are passing through, like on a long trip.
Mm-hmm.
And so there really isn't much of a risk. And then also, they pretty much take us by truck and drop us off and say, don't leave here. You know, you have radios. They don't want you going off by yourself because there's always that risk.
Yeah.
Something dangerous happening, or, you know, or you're out by yourself and you're face to face with the Cape Buffalo, which we did see those, and we had those close, you know. I mean, all those risks are real, but I don't really put it like any different than being in bear country or mountain lion country, you know. I mean, yeah, there is a risk, but you know, no, other places in Africa, of course, are a much different story, you know. Like some areas have lots of lions, and just where we are, that's not the case.
Gotcha. I think of, like, you know, because I was saying mule deer hunts and caribou, and like there's gonna be grizzlies around, at least when I go on the caribou hunt. And I just wonder how mentally I would be, you know, in a situation like that. Like, just knowing that there's 1,000-pound monster possibly running around. I know in Africa it's a little different, but like, it's just interesting. It adds like that adventure to it, you know? Yeah. Like I have this argument with buddies of mine all the time that, you know, they'll bow hunt in bow season, then they drop the bow and go to a rifle, right? And the argument is always back and forth, because I'm like, listen, gun hunting in Georgia, most of the time, unless you're in South Georgia, you're not taking a terribly far shot. And I'm not saying that it's any, you know, that it's easy or whatever, but in my personal experience, I feel like it's easier, right? And that's not to knock them.
I'll just say it. It's easier.
Yeah, right. So I always argue, and I'm like, just go a whole season using your bow. It's going to humble you, and you will have a much greater appreciation for it. Because I like a challenge, right? And like Georgia, we don't really have too many, I guess, predators. Like, yeah, we got bobcats, we got coyotes. I'm not really too worried about them. North Georgia, there's bears, but a black bear sees you, most of the time it's going to run away, right? So we don't really have that, like, I'm walking in the woods in the dark and there could be something here that's pacing me. And we have mountain lions. I've seen one out here, and I'm an hour east of Atlanta. And so we're not in the mountains. We're not, you know, it's basically farm country and ridges and hills and stuff. I saw one mountain lion cross the road maybe 4 years ago. But other than that, we got nothing. So when I'm thinking like Africa or just anywhere else that's maybe actually got big predators, that's always something I think about, because I'm like, you know, what's to stop? And I'm not trying to sound negative at all. It's just a thought that I had. But like, what's to stop a lion or a leopard from walking past the blind and getting a whiff of you and being like, that smells kind of good? Like, what? Yeah. Has anyone dealt with that? I mean,
so keep this in mind. You don't go anywhere on your own, and there's always a PH with a rifle next to you. Whether you're
so they're there with you.
So typically they're sitting with you, yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Absolutely, for sure. If you're out tracking or you're out spot and stalk, they're there, and they always have a rifle just in case.
Got it.
Always.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes more sense. I can't imagine that being in like Alaska, unless it's.
But I mean, there's still, you know, there is still always, and this is just how it is. This part of the I don't know, the lure and mystique of Africa to me is you never know what is coming by next. And
that's so cool, man.
I could relate to what you're saying, because I've been bear hunting 3 or 4 times in my life. And the first time that I went, I was scared to death to climb out of that tree. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I was scared to climb down in the dark and walk back out of there.
Mm-hmm.
Now, after a couple trips under my belt, now I get down and I don't carry a sidearm or anything, and I'm not scared. It's just, if you're used to it, that's one thing. But, you know, if you're not used to it, and of course, it can be nerve-wracking.
Yeah. I mean, dude, I remember my first time going into the woods hunting by myself. One of the worst, honestly, one of the scariest times. It's hilarious now looking back, but at the time it wasn't. I was on my mother-in-law's property. It was only 3 acres, but it had like a bunch of property behind it. and it was November, but we had a little bit, I can't remember if we had rain and it was foggy or it was a little warmer than it should have been and it was foggy, but regardless, it was foggy. Okay. And I've got my bright headlamp. I'm walking through, kind of getting in my head a little bit. Like I've never been scared of the dark, but I'm still very new to it. And I'm looking down at the ground and I look up and I see these two eyes just maybe 20 yards away. And I know now what it was. I found out later what it was, but at the time I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, what is that? And so I kind of have a standoff with it. Turns out it was just a doe. And I realized that after I took one more step forward and she blew and then ran away. But it's that like when you're still very new to it, you have no idea, and before hunting, I've said this before on the podcast too, I was very heavy into thinking Bigfoot was real. And so then I get into hunting and I'm walking in the dark in the woods and I hear things moving around and I'm like, was I wrong? Or is this real? Like it really freaked me out. So but that's what makes it fun, honestly. Like the I don't want to say the risk factor is the fun part, but a hunt with some risk to it is to me more interesting than just being like, I'm just going to get dropped off at this cornfield and I know that this 200-inch deer is going to show up and I have nothing to worry about. You know what I'm saying? Like those are fun too, but I would rather go on like an African hunt or Alaskan hunt where there is a bit of risk involved.
I just think it comes down to you set out to do something, right? And for most of us with bow hunting, like goal number one, kill a deer, right? Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what it is, that for most of us. And for some that comes quick, for others takes a long time. Then you kill another one and another one. Well, it took me 6 years to kill one. Now I'm old and we didn't have many deer, but but we all make graduations of some sort, right? Because you've gotten where you're accomplishing that. So what's the next step? For some of us it's bigger antlers, for some it's different animals, whatever it might be. I mean, for me, turkey hunting, I killed a ton of them growing up with a shotgun. It really was like getting to be easy. Missouri was great. We had tons and tons of birds, and it's not for 10 years in a row. By 9 o'clock opening morning, I was done. So I decided, okay, I'm going to do it with a bow. Well, 4 or 5 years later, I finally did it. Now I'm up to like 65 of them with a bow. I haven't killed one with a gun in 20 something years. So,
God,
I mean, it's just, we all have those things. And so to me, Africa is just like another layer of newness, and challenge, to everything that you're saying. It's understandable. I think it's natural.
Yeah. Do you see yourself going on like a red stag hunt anytime?
Yeah. In fact,
that
was supposed to be our next trip. My wife really wants to go there. And we were going to this second Africa trip, just really kind of materialized and we decided to go for it. But back to the Cape Buffalo question, I won't go back and do that until I've done some other things that I want to do. And my wife loves to travel, and while she isn't necessarily a hunter, she enjoys the environment and she wants to see different things just like me. And so red stag's probably the next one for me.
Nice. I thankfully was able to convince my wife to try out archery. So her bow just got a new string and she blew my mind, dude. Like we were driving to my sister-in-law's place on Saturday. And some of the real quick backstory is like when I first got into hunting, I got obsessive. Like I almost had a divorce because of how obsessive I got. And doing the podcast is kind of like the outlet for that, where I'm not talking your ear off about it. But she came to me on Saturday and was like, hey, so if I get into archery and I shoot better than you, are you going to be mad? I was like, no, of course not. I was like, you're probably going to. Statistically speaking, from what I've seen, women are better at it anyway. So I'm cool with it. And she's like, what if I get into hunting? And I looked at her and you should have seen my face. It lit up. I'm like, if you what now? She's like, yeah, what if I get into hunting, and I kill a deer that's bigger than yours? I'm like, I would love that because that'll make me want to try even harder. And so I've talked to her before about going out of state, or not even out of state, out of country to like Africa, because she's mentioned Africa before. I've told her about New Zealand. And she's kind of, it sounds similar. Like she wants to travel. She's never been to Canada. She wants to go to Canada. Italy. I don't know if there's any hunting in Italy, but if there is, I would do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like I guess I bring that up because it goes back to, just what we were talking about, just archery in general. Like you have to not upgrade. You have to hit milestones. You have to get better and all this other stuff. And I feel like it brings people together. Like, have you ever had your wife shoot a bow, or she
Yeah,
done
so
that before?
she does shoot a little bit. She's got I got her a nice bow. She had some interest in trying it. She really likes to shoot a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Her she's had some shoulder and elbow issues, so that's kind of put a damper on it.
Yeah.
But in fact, just in the last week, because you talk about having how many bows your buddy went through, like you should see what I've went through in just the last few months, like trying to find exactly what I want to take to Africa. But
Yeah.
because I've been spending so much time with it, she's like, I'd really like to start shooting again. And I think I'm gonna get her. I don't know if you've heard of that new company, Truth Archery.
Yeah.
But so I bought one of their bows last couple weeks and love it. I think I'm going to get her one of those because they're so extremely lightweight. Her bow hand is the one that starts hurting her shoulder from holding the weight of the bow up. So
Mm-hmm.
she's kind of excited about that. Having a little bit light, as light a possible bow as she can get a hold
Yeah.
of, and helping her out some. And
Have you checked out the new form from Prime?
yes, I had a Prime RevX2 a couple years ago. Loved it. Shot the form. I liked it quite a bit. I didn't end up buying one to try, but trust me, I've been through way too many bows in the last year. Like,
yeah. See,
my buddy's telling me I need meetings or something. I just love to set things up. And no matter how much I love a bow, I don't keep it very long because I like the whole process so much,
yeah. Yeah, I went through kind of the same thing. Like, so I shot bear for a long time. That's what I started with. And in my mind, I was like, dude, this is the best there is. Budget bows that are shooting just as good. Don't get me wrong, they do. I mean, I hunted all last season with a bear, and it was good. I killed a few deer with it. But this past winter, when I knew that I was going to be trying to, find, like, because I wanted to work with a bow company. I didn't want to just spend a bunch of money and then talk about it on here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was trying to get that going.
Yeah.
And so I went to the shop and shot every single flagship bow they had, from Elite all the way to like Darton, Prime, Hoyt, Matthews, all of that. And I basically settled on the best two. Where the new Hoyts were nice. I like those, but that Prime being so stable in the draw cycle, I fell in love with it. And then of course Truth Archery comes out. My buddy Bergie now works with them. And I'm just like,
I know Bergie well.
yeah. So like he's been pushing those, and I've talked to him about the bow. And granted, I'm still gonna shoot Prime. I'm still pushing Prime. Like that's to me the best bow that I've shot. But I just love shooting new bows. Like I didn't get to shoot Expedition. I want to shoot Truth. I want to see what these bows feel like so I can kind of compare. So, I mean, like, what was the bow you were shooting before you got the Truth?
So I went from the Rev X2. So I had a handful of Matthews, then the Rev X2, then a PSE Mach 30. Then I bought an APA Black Mamba last January. Turkey hunted with that.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
wow.
nice. Still have that.
Yeah.
Then I also have a Lift X and this Truth. Oh, and I have a Darton Prelude 32 mixed in there.
Dang, man, you weren't joking.
Yeah, I'm not
got
joking.
A ton of bows.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah. So I in every single one of those that I just named, I really liked a lot.
Yeah.
And working in the industry, I've kind of stayed away from shooting for a bow company for about the last 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay open to shooting whatever. And, if I can help someone out because I post a picture or whatever, that's fine. But not openly trying to promote anyone. It gives me some flexibility and, just go that route. And so I've been fortunate to shoot and own pretty much I doubt there's a company that you could name that I wouldn't have owned one at one time. But those are the last few that I've had. But I will say this: I'm absolutely super impressed with the Truth bows. Like I really like mine a lot. That's what I'm going to take to Africa.
Gotcha. Are you shooting 70 pounds or 80 pounds? Like, what's your setup for Africa?
So, funny thing, 3 years ago, when I was preparing for Africa, I started having shoulder issues around. So we went in June, and in March, getting ready for turkey season, it was just a little bit of a nag.
Mm-hmm.
By the time turkey season rolled around, it exponentially got worse. It got so bad I thought I was going to have to cancel my Africa trip. Went through the whole thing, MRIs, all that. And my shoulder was in pretty bad shape, and they gave me some injections to get me through Africa. Then that fall, I did hunt that fall, but every time I shot, I would only shoot one arrow a week, cold
Yeah.
shot, make sure I'm on. That's all I could handle. And it wasn't the draw, it was at the release with the follow through, and it was terrible. I killed 3 deer that year and brought me to tears every time I shot. That's how bad it was.
Jeez.
But
Was it
anyways,
like a torn rotator or what was it?
I'm really dragging this out. What ended up happening was I had some arthritis, supposedly a torn rotator cuff, and my bicep was torn. Well, my rotator cuff ended up not being torn, but the arthritis was way worse than he thought. So he cleaned it out, repaired my bicep, walked out of surgery, told my wife I'd need a replacement sooner than later. Few months later, I got the replacement because my recovery was going to hell. Had a failure with the replacement, had a third surgery in the course of 4 months. So I've had 3 total replacements. I'm on a reverse replacement right now. But doing pretty much anything I want to. Now, here's one of the pluses to the Truth. In the last 3 years, I've never shot more than 57 pounds because of my shoulder. It came set on 63, and I thought, I'll just see what it feels like. I was shocked that I could draw it. So I'm leaving it max at 63 and shooting it extremely well without pain. And that draw cycle is phenomenal. All these other bows that I've mentioned, I'm not down in any of them because they're all nice ones. I really like the Lift X. I can't shoot that weight on the other ones.
Yeah.
But I'm getting the same speeds out of it. Now, not the APA is extremely fast, but I can't shoot that. Yeah. So anyways, I'm on this trip. I'm shooting 63 pounds and 450 grain arrows.
Nice.
I'm a short draw guy, so I got to stay on the light side. I just don't have much behind them. But I was shooting less than that on the last trip and had 0 problems. So yeah.
What broadhead are you going to take out there?
Magnus Black Hornet set razors.
Okay, going fixed blade.
I've been shooting that for about 6 years, and I'm somewhere in the 150 animal range with them. And there's very few things on this earth that I wouldn't use that broadhead for. Yeah, I absolutely love those broadheads.
I don't think I've seen that many in the past 5 years.
I hunt a lot.
Dude. I can tell. That's crazy.
I mean, when you throw the turkeys in, and I kill a bunch of hogs usually, so a typical spring for me is between 3 and 6 birds, and then anywhere from at times 5 to 20 hogs in a summer, and then I'll kill somewhere between 5 and 10 deer a year. So those numbers add up pretty quick. It doesn't take long to. Yeah,
it's insane. So when are we going to see a deer like the Missouri Monarch on a Hot Shot ad? Because it's been a long time, and I know that Missouri can produce it. So
I mean,
when's that coming?
I hunt Missouri and Illinois, and I've been around some giants. I wouldn't say I've killed any giants. I've killed a lot, 100 and 100, between 150 and 160. I'd kill those and see those. I won't say regularly. There's no such thing, right?
But yeah, those are giants though. Down here in Georgia, that's a unicorn.
I've seen a few deer that I know were over 200 inches. I've never quite seen that caliber of buck, but my fingers are crossed that I can. My first goal is to get above 160.
Yeah.
But I'm not good enough to pass the 145s up. See, I just enjoy the hunt too much, and that's still a very nice deer to me. And I'm just not there. But
Yeah. That's the thing, man. Like I've been talking about that with a couple buddies. You know, I've got a few that are like, I'm not shooting anything below a certain size. And I did that dumb stuff last year, right? And I say dumb stuff because I passed on some deer that, you know, are smaller than the one behind me, but still I haven't killed a buck in 3 years. Right. And so I'm feeling that itch. Like my last day, I almost killed a spike just because I haven't killed a spike yet. I'm like, I gotta pop that cherry, I suppose. You know, maybe that's the reason why I'm not killing bucks. But like I used to care so much about wanting to, you know, because a lot of people, especially social media, does this. And if I'm holding you up, let me know. But I I feel like social media makes especially new hunters be like, oh, if I'm not shooting a 180-inch deer, I'm not doing nothing. But then you live in like South Georgia, Florida line where those don't, you know, 120-inch deer is a stud. I mean, even out here, you know, I had one deer last year that was pushing 130 mid 130s. I've got a couple right now. I'm expecting like the ones I showed you. I'm hoping in July they blow up and they reach the 130, 140 mark, you know? And for Georgia, that's a giant. Now, if I do have a spot now that's out where Seek One hunts, and I know for a fact that there can be some giants out there, but that's like a whole different animal. But it's just people, you know, people hear 140 these days, and sometimes they're just like, oh, that's a good buck, rather than being like, that's a seriously like big deer. You know, people don't kill those consistently.
I think we're kind of like desensitized to it all because
yeah,
of deer management, you know, is so common now. Bigger deer are more common, and pictures and social media. But you know, like 2 years ago, the first day that I hunted in Illinois, which, as everyone knows, is a great state, and I hunt in a great area on private ground. You know, like at any given time, a 200-incher is around probably. But I ended up killing, you know, a mid 150s buck on that first evening, and I have buddies that would not have killed that deer. Now, they don't say you shouldn't have. They're not like that. That's their choice. But I'm just not gonna not shoot it. Now, it was a really old deer. You know, I got the mount back a couple months ago, and it's easily the most biggest body mature deer that I've ever killed out of any of them, even though it's not the biggest antlers necessarily. But this is what I always say, like, so yeah, I am kind of running out of time. So this might be a great place to end it, because this is my philosophy. I don't, while I do have a goal, like the next thing is I really want to kill one over 160. That doesn't mean that if a 125 gets me excited, I'm killing it, because that is what I judge for me personally, is if I'm excited, I'm going to kill it. And then if someone says, why'd you kill that deer? I don't care what anyone else thinks. I only care what I think. And I could give you a great example. There, 3 years ago, typically I hunt every single day between Halloween and Thanksgiving. I just have that. I've always had that flexibility at work.
Well, that's prime time too.
1 year I did not. I didn't have any flexibility. We like had this crisis going on. I managed to get one evening away to hunt. Bucks were running everywhere, and I had a 115-inch deer chase a doe right under me, killed him, and I was as excited about that deer as that opening evening, well, you know, mid 150s buck I just told you about, because of the circumstances, and that's what everyone ought to go by. I mentioned how many turkeys I've killed, and I'm not bragging. I'm just saying, like, I'm just that into turkey hunting with a bow. If a Jake comes in and does all the things that I'm looking for to hunt, and I'm excited about the way he's come in, if he's gobbling, if he attacks my decoys, if he's 4 yards away and I feel like taking his head off, I'm going to, and I'm not going to care what someone says about it being a Jake. I just don't care, you know. And
I love hearing that.
I just think that's the way everyone ought to be. You know, I shoot a handful of does every year because I'm out there with a tag, and that's what I want to do, and I enjoy it. And
Yeah, it's your hunt. It's not anyone else's but yours.
The owner's happy too, you know, and so there is that aspect. But that's my philosophy on that whole thing. And so I hate when I see someone post a picture and say, well, it's just a Jake, or well, it's just a, you know, whatever, just a spike, or just a fork horn. Like, dude, if you got excited enough that you wanted to kill it, you should be proud. Say so.
Dude, I love it. That is a beautiful way to end this. But before we do, tell everyone where they can find you. We'll do another episode where we just BS about hunting, because I know there's a lot more we could talk about.
Yeah. So Hot Shot Archery, you could find on socials by searching that Hot Shot Archery. Our website is hotshotarchery.com. Me personally, generally speaking, if you search my name or Aim Low Robin, remember I talked about bow fishing, that's where the Aim Low came from, Aim Low Robin. You'll find me by searching that. I generally am just Facebook and Instagram. Same for I do have a YouTube page. I video so many hunts. I don't do as much of the video as I should. I just don't have the time. But that's how you could find me, Aim Low Robin and Hot Shot Archery. So, yep.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We'll schedule another one so we can dive into more hunting stuff. But seriously, man, it was a good episode. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.